Hey everyone, welcome back to the stream. So yesterday we did a small setup. So we created a new app, right? So we created this as an admin app, and then what we did is we also used the nested project. So NX, as I said, NX 16, sorry, 15.2 or 15.3 allows you to have nested projects. So we created a product, a library for the this app, the here store, right? So our main admin app. And today we will continue with let's yeah. So we'll continue and we'll try to see what AppWrite is, because to create this admin app, I need a backend. I cannot use a fake backend or fake API, because of course I need to save the data and then retrieve it later. So what we will be doing is we will be exploring AppWrite, which is backend as a service. And to see that, I mean, let's see how your AppWrite looks like here. So you can go to AppWrite, and now they have a cloud version available. So before it was just launched a few months ago. I no, I should have actually I have a hoodie from AppWrite. I'll probably wear it on the other stream, but they now launched the cloud version, so you can actually go ahead and create your account on cloud, and then you can use the AppWrite the as your backend. Earlier, it was like you had to download and what you can say, uh, uh, what we use for like containers and everything. How I forgot the name. So you have Kubernetes, you have Docker. Yeah. So before that, you had to actually download a Docker container. Sorry, I'm not a backend developer, so I don't work with all these stats really. So you had to create a Docker. You have to download actually Docker container and then run it locally and then set it up. Now, I mean, so of course, you once you go to AppWrite, you will have an option where you can create your account. You can log in using GitHub. So that's what I have done. So this is my dashboard. So I just logged in into AppWrite. I just created my account. I have done nothing. I just created an app, and then after I choose this app, and I can connect it to a platform. I can choose whether I want an Flutter app, or I want to connect it to an Apple Store Android app, or I want to integrate with your server. For example, if I want to write my own Node.js backend, I can just use APIs, or I can use also webhooks if I want to. But I'm going to use web app because this is what I'm going to do. And I'll name this as Kia store, and host name. I'll say, okay, this is localhost because I'm right now connecting to my local host. Do I need to give uh, the port? I don't think so. That's fine. So let's go ahead and do this. So there are two ways we can actually get the SDK. One is from npm and second is CDN. So we will use, of course, npm, right? I mean, we are JavaScript developers. We just like to install everything. So let's go ahead and install AppWrite. So this is something which we did yesterday. So let's go ahead and check this, check this and create a new branch. So because I just try to keep all code into different branch, so it's easy to figure out and easy to navigate through the code base. So I'll just add this. I hope you can hear me fine. So just move my microphone up, because otherwise you will just hear my keyboard, which I don't want to. Git commit, and then this is add Rx Angular, and Angular nested project. So I'll just push this, and then we can create a new branch. Awesome. So let's create new branch, and I'll just say feature add app, right? Okay, so we are into new branch. Let's install the SDK. So I'll say, okay, this is npm install AppWrite. And once this is done, this is okay. This is required. So this is how you can set up a new client. We have endpoint, and then we have a project ID, which we need. So let's copy this, and then next, you are ready to go. Great. So what I will do is, of course, after this stream, I will just change this SDK like APIs. So we like, of course, no one can else can use it. But yeah, after the stream. So let's go ahead and give it a try. So what I'm going to do is I'll go to product.ts, and if you like, if you might be wondering what is this code. I mean, this looks like typical JavaScript code. So client is equals to new client, and then you have to set this up. So this client comes from AppWrite. So you can say import, and then I can use this client anywhere to connect to my API, and we can actually query anything, right? So we can have a database, we can have auth, we can have storage. So let's see. I think there should be docs, overview, auth, and we have databases. We can create a database. What should we do? We should use, let's create a database, and then we can say, okay, this is my uh, mm, ATP. And now I can actually go ahead and add my information to this database. And let's see the documentation, how we can actually do that. So this is the documentation to create a new collection. And we have already done the first step. So we created our database, we got our CLIs, and let's go ahead and create. So AppWrite uses collections as containers. I mean, if you are wondering what collections are, so it's similar to what we have in relational databases. We have tables, right? So in NoSQL databases, you can actually have collections. So you can manage a collection automatically or server SDKs. Let's see. So we have Node.js, PHP, create your own project, set key. This is something which we already got, project ID and key. So what we have here, project, and we have to add set key. Great. So JSON Web Token, using a JSON Web Token, you can interact with a AppWrite server API as a specific user, be able to access only relevant user resources. Okay. So let's go back, and I'll go to the REST APIs and see what we can do with the REST APIs. And this is AppWrite using headers. This is client authentication. I think there should be one for SDK, JWT, file handling. Okay, there is enough. Like, you can actually do a lot of stuff. You can also upload files. And this is role, unique ID, query methods. So you can select open API and service packs. Okay, so this is so this is JSON file which we can import into any of like, let's say if you have if you're using any REST API client, you can actually import those. Let's see an example. I mean, I just want to see, this is node, this is node. I just want an example for web. So web SDK, this is how you create a new account, okay, or create a new JWT token. I just want for web. I just want to do a simple operation. Just let's see, figure out how to do that. So account and ID, init your SDK, set project, make your first request. So this is what we are going to do. We will make our first request by using this one. Let's copy this, and then we'll actually this is JavaScript code, right? And then we will rewrite it in a way that we can use it inside an Angular project. Let's right now just follow the documentation and see how we can do stuffs. And let's copy this here. So we already have The SDK, let's import the account, create ID, it should be from AppWrite, and then we have client, which is already created here. So I'll just move this code inside. So let's move this code inside our Angular class, like as an properties. So we have new client, and then we can initialize this in our constructor. Here we can say, okay, this dot client. So we have our client initialized as soon as our application loads. And then we'll see what else we can actually do with those APIs. So here, this is closed here, and I'm not sure why I'm not able to format this file, but let's see. Format document. Am I missing something? Yeah, here, because there's an error. So okay, is there is one more error. Product action. And this should be okay. So there is okay. So let's go ahead and create our first user. So we can say, okay, it will register a new user with this example. And we just want to verify if this is actually available in our collection or not. Let's run the application. So I'll just go to NX console. Let's say do serve, store, and execute. So just looking at. Once this app is compiled and it's served, we should see a new account which should be created. So let's go to localhost 4000 and let's inspect. So this is created. So you can see a new record has been created. This is from line number 63, which is actually a response from AppWrite. Let's go to the AppWrite dashboard now, and we can see if we have a new user. So overview should be auth, right? So here you can see we just created a new account with this detail. So we have name, ID, and it's unverified, right? So you can see the password is actually password, but we can use this API to actually create a new login UI, right? So we can say, okay, whenever in our portal, whenever new user registers, uh, we can actually save all this information here. So we have, let's see, in account.create, we can pass emails, ID, email, password, string, name. Okay. And this user ID is unique, I think. Yeah, this is a unique user ID, and we can copy this. Let's see what the unique ID is. So this is how the unique ID is being created. It's a random number probably, or it's a combination of or some hash. So let's see if and now what we can do is, like, we cannot use this everywhere, right? I mean, if I want to use this client inside my entire application, this is generally not the way we do it in Angular, right? In Angular, what we do is we initialize a service and we make sure that all the details are available, and then you can use this client anywhere you want to. We can actually refactor this code and set up a service which will be responsible for like setting up our client, and then we can access the client instance anywhere and call our APIs. So I just want to see what else we have here. So we have avatar, databases, functions, GraphQL. Okay, that's amazing. So if I go to databases, we can probably do the same way. Let's see. So we have database which extends a service, and then we can create a document, we can list document, we can get a document, and delete a document. So we have to pass database ID. I think there should be constructor. Yeah. So this is a constructor. This is how you can actually create a new database. So you will say, okay, new database, and then pass your client, and then you can do all the operations. That's good. So I'll just remove this service now. We don't want this. What we want to do is we want to set up a service which will be responsible for giving me an access to this client ID. So what we can do is I had written a code a few months ago. Let's see if I can find that. So what it will save us some time, and it should be in my pull request and should be in the closed one. Mentioned closed, and organization should be my name, and I think uh, it was right. Okay, let's see. Yeah, so refactor use in so this is an example which I did for right, and let's see this code. So what I had done is actually, rather than using the client, I mean the way we have defined it, we actually used a new AppWrite service. So this is the service which we'll be using. So you can see it creates a new instance. I mean, I think few things have changed. Looks like, so we have here client, right? So we have client, and then previously it was something else. Yeah, it looks like API has changed. So I'll do it in the same way, and then I will tell you what I have basically done here and how we will use it. So you can see actually I did it using the something known as app initializer, which is a very good way to initialize anything which you want to make available before your Angular has been initialized. So as soon as I pass this like app initializer and initialize the service here, in this case, I'm writing a new service called AppWrite service. So this service instance will be like, it will create a new client, and then this new client will be available for everyone within the application. So we don't have to initialize this every time. So we don't have to do client is equals to new client. Let's add this into our another library. So we will use another library for this, and we will use our app module to initialize it. And now we don't have app module, but we still have providers array, so we can still go ahead and use the app initializer. So uh, where should I do this? Now, this is an interesting thing because I want this to be available in my front end application as well as back end application, because I want to build the registration logic based on this. I want to build login logic based on this. I probably want my like card, which we were using the fake APIs before. I just want to replace everything with this AppWrite. So in this case, what I will do is I will create a new library inside the libs folder because it makes sense. It will be used by both. So let's go ahead and create a new library here. And I'll say, okay, this is a new library. And I just want to make sure that I'm not just talking to myself. So let's go ahead and see it on YouTube. Um, hmm, just to make sure that I'm audible. So let's see. Okay. Uh, am I perfect? So hmm, where were we? So we wanted to add a new service, and I'll call this as AppWrite. Wait, AppWrite service. our AppWrite library. So we can have another service inside this. And I don't want, okay, so this should be a generate buildable library, that's fine. And okay, cool. This new library is AppWrite library, and then directory libs, generate Angular library. Great. So this is my library, and then I want a service here. I will remove this components. I don't want these components as of now. And let's generate a service. Project name is AppWrite. So I'll say, okay, this is AppWrite service. So somehow they are outside. I'll just move them into the folder. And this is the AppWrite service, which we will use everywhere within our front end, back end, and wherever we want to call the AppWrite client. So let's see what I had actually done here. So we can see, okay, there is an injection token. So injection token actually contains a few properties. I'll just copy this code as it is because I think this is the same thing which we want here. So we'll just use, okay, this is new injection token. And let's see what we needed actually for client. We need client is equals to new client. Where's this? And then we set client dot set endpoint and set project. So this is two things which we need: endpoint and project ID. That's it. So collection ID, I think we can keep it as of now, but we will use it later. Okay, so once this is done, what I want is I want an AppWrite instance to be available. So I'll just copy this again. So we will use this. So whenever you want to initialize the service, like we want to inject the token, injection token. I'll I'll explain what it is, right? Now just forget about, or then we can say, okay, this is client rather than AppWrite. I think last time I tried it was called AppWrite. Okay, and then I can call init method where I will initialize it, and then I'll say, okay, this is my AppWrite instance, or my, let's call this as client instance, or just say client. I think it makes more sense. And we say this is new client, right? And then this dot client we set and project set endpoint and project. So these are two things which we need. We already saw it here. So this is what we need to set, right? Set project and set endpoint. And we can get these values from anywhere. We can actually save it in environment variable. And this is it. So we have our init method, we have our service, and we just need to call the init method to set the instance of client so we can retrieve it later. Next step, let's go back. So next step is, of course, I need to set it up here. So I want to have an app initializer where I can actually instantiate this particular service. So it requires some code, of course, again. So I'll just copy this code and I'm going to move this code into, where should I make it? I mean, let's do it on the server because this code is needed in both the files, right? I need it in front end and back end both. So there are a few things we can do. I think we can actually pass, uh, we can actually have this particular service at least. Endpoint server. I think I can do this. So I'll move this as well into this particular service and call this as AppWrite factory. And let's start this particular service. Okay, so we need those two files and then we can actually get rest of the configuration from environment. And let's export these two files. So we'll say, okay, this is export AppWrite, and what we need is our service, and we also need to export the factory. There is no right. Great. So we have our service, we have our factory. Just let's go ahead and use the initializer now, app initializer into our main app. So this is our main app, and we can use initializer here. So you see there is a providers array, and we can now move the rest of the code, which is this. It's okay, app provide app initializer. Then we need app config, AppWrite config, which is this one. So this function comes from the AppWrite library which we have created. Import AppWrite service. What do we have here? AppWrite service, AppWrite config token. Okay, AppWrite service, and then we also had factory. I'm not able to find because I'm missing export, right? So if we don't use export, there is nothing which should be shared outside. And let's go back to our module. That's this file. Then app config, AppWrite config. So we have this dependencies will be my service, and we also need to set the project ID. If we go back to AppWrite service, it needs the endpoint and project ID. So this is something which we will take from the environment variable. We can actually save these values into our environment variable and retrieve it. But for time being, let's pass it here. So I can say, okay, this is my injection token. So config token, right? So let's see how we get it here. We set token and then we pass the value. So we'll say, okay, this is provide AppWrite config token. And then we can say, okay, use value, and we can pass both the values here. So we have endpoint and we have project, and we know both the values. So we can actually just remove it from the component itself. If you remember in product, we actually called both the values, like we had coded them. So this is my endpoint. Just here, and then we needed project. Sorry, project ID. And let's verify if the code is same. So we calling set endpoint and set project in our service just to verify before we run our code and see if everything works fine. So we have set endpoint and set project. We are setting local. I think that this is something which was required at that moment, but I think it should be okay now. So cool. So we have everything available which we wanted. I mean, we have a service, we have written our app initializer. So this service will be enabled, or so the service, this client instance will be available for everyone. And now we can just start using this particular service rather than actually relying on the client instance, which we created directly here. Let's clean up the code now. Hey, Shubham, hi. I'm good. I'm good. How are you? And thank you for joining. I need to comment this out. I mean, if you just joined, I mean, I'm just trying to work around with AppWrite AppWrite product, which is like you can create your own backend, not your own backend, but you can use backend as a service. Basically, it gives you all the APIs, and you can just call those APIs, and you don't have to write your backend code. That's what I'm trying to do right now, and then probably in future I may actually create a backend, but I just want to try all this different ways to actually create your application. So client, I'll just remove this code and yeah, I'll keep this one because I need the client instance, right? So I just removed the code which we use from AppWrite directly. So now we will import our service. It's okay. Hey, just give me the new AppWrite service which we have created and which is available in org. So, Shubham, you are from which city? org/AppWrite. So, AppWrite service. This is what we need. Let's go back and inject this because this is now Angular service, so we can directly inject, and that's okay. This is app right service. This is the naming convention we can follow. Okay, so now this is done, and I'll import account because this is something which I need. And probably in future, we can also isolate this into an Angular service. So we do all the operation related to client from this particular service. So I'll say, okay, this dot my AppWrite service dot client, because now we have an instance client or undefined. Okay, that makes sense. So we want to make sure that client instance is available, and I'll just drop client. Let's see, because I'm using strict mode, so this gives an issue. I'll just use this one. Okay. Now let's see where we have this error. And okay, I wanted to import the ID as well. And let's change the values now. So I'll just say this is my name, and everything should work now. I mean, it took us 30 minutes to actually refactor everything and create our own service on top of it. And let's see on console. Okay, so this is the record which we have available. So you can see this one. Let's go back to our dashboard so we can see how many records it has created. Probably not too many. Great. So there are two records available. So this was one was actually when we were directly consuming the client inside our application. Now in second case, what we are doing is we actually isolated everything, all the AppWrite related code into a separate service. So whenever someone wants to actually go ahead and use AppWrite, they don't have to initialize a new client again and again, because now your service contains this instance of the client, and then you can use this client anywhere you want. I mean, you can actually create a new databases, you can actually create a new storage. So let's go ahead and use this to do some stuff, and let's create a database. Let's figure out like how to create a database. So I'll just comment this out, and then we can use all this code which we are actually doing right now, and then move them into a service, and then we can actually connect, okay, whether I want to create a new product, add a new product, so we can make all those functions available in our code base. First, we need to understand how AppWrite works. I'm also learning AppWrite, so it's not like I'm an expert. And that's what I do on this live stream. I just choose a library or a framework and then struggle with it. That's how we learn. Let's not login user, but let's create database. That's okay. Create database. Hmm. So here now rather than account, I'll just copy the same line because I think it's rather than this database, let's import ID. It's called databases. Okay. So we have DB new database. I'll just comment this code and let's do console to see what we actually get from this console dot log, and I'll just log the database. Okay, so it gives us a databases with a client object, and then it has some config, it has some headers, it has some real time. Oh, it has a real time database as well. So let's do db dot, and we can see what are the different operations which we can perform. So we can create a document. Let's create a document, and what we can pass. So we have to pass a database ID, create a new document. Before using this route, you should create a new collection resource using either server integration API or directly from your database console. So I have to go back and refer my console. So let's go back to databases, and I already have a database, and I think I need to pass the database ID. So this is something which we need now to define this one. So with client ID, we also need, uh, let's see. Okay, so client, I'm just checking databases, what it contains. So it has client, and then database ID is the first parameter. So probably the database ID which I just copied would be my first parameter. So this is my database ID, and then collection ID, um, and then the document ID, and then data. So let's see. This is my database. We'll create a collection. So I'll call this collection as product. Okay. So we need now have a collection ID. So let's pass this collection ID. Then the next parameter is document ID. So now we have a document, and create your first attribute to get started. Attribute key and type. Okay, so I think I can have a name, and I can say, okay, this is string. Size, default value required array. Okay, this field is required. What should be the size? Okay, let's make it 20. I think product name, I mean, it can be bigger. Just let's keep it 100, and let's see. So we got our collection ID, and what was the third parameter? So document ID. So why we not need a document ID? I'm just wondering. Create a document. Okay, create data based on attribute you created earlier. And then we can pass the document ID. Why there are three levels? Okay, this is where we are going to see the documentation. So we have database. So here you can see it says database ID collection. Okay, and then document ID is actually they are passing ID dot unique. Okay, this is interesting. We can do the same. Hello, Santosh. I'd like to ask you a quick question. Okay, so Mr. Matt is here. So his question is, I would like to ask you a question, please. And am I obliged to use signals in my personal project? Is what I was doing before Angular 16 valid? Yes, it is. So your older code is not going anywhere. The signals are just a way to actually uh, give you extra APIs, extra layer of APIs. So you can write the performant code without worrying about change direction much. If you remember, I mean, when you write an Angular code, you have to always worry about, okay, if my application is huge, of course, change direction does not matter if application is small or medium. But as soon as you go into an enterprise application, you have thousands of components, and then the problem is the number of change direction cycles. And this is where we start getting the performance issues. To avoid this, they just simplified the API, and then they gave us signals which will have the local what you can say, the granular level of change detection. So now you don't have to worry about your parent components or his parent component. You just have to worry about your own component, because the change detection will run based on what data you're changing. So yes, older code is still valid. You can migrate them in case you are using observables. You can migrate those code to signals. There are uh, there are actually APIs to convert your observables to signals. So please go ahead and use the earlier code, and they are still valid. I hope that answers your question, Mr. Man. So here I'll use this same function id.unique, and then we'll pass the data. So id.unique, and the last is data. I think I can pass an object here if I'm not wrong. Yeah. So I can say, okay, name, product one, description. I'll just add all these properties, image URL, quantity, and is there anything else? No. So let's save this, and let's see the database, and let's see the application. So okay, there is some error. So it says AppWrite exception. The current user is not authorized to perform requested action. This is interesting. So it means to perform any operation, we have to authorize, and then only we can actually do the operation. Probably it has the database level authorization. Or yeah, I think that's the thing, right? So we can go to settings. I'm sure there might be some way to actually override it. I used it with Supabase. Uh, okay, so thanks a lot. I'm actually trying to integrate the new Angular features little by little in my project. That's the best way to do it. Just don't go all in. Try a small features. I would suggest even doing that. So I think this yeah, I was at so I had used Supabase, and I think in Supabase also, you if you want to write anything to database, you need to be authorized, or you can actually just override those settings. I'm just not sure where to do it in AppWrite. So uh, database settings, update name. This is the name. Database will be permanently deleted. I don't want to delete it. Let's see, account. If it's a project level setting or what? So I don't think so. There is any setting here. Personal project, members, that's fine. E-commerce app, and I don't see any setting here as well. No data to show. That's fine. I mean, but we can see there are some requests. So it means we are able to connect to the AppWrite. And usage, database read one, but I wanted to write, and to write it, now we have this error. It says the current user is not authorized to perform requested action. The current user is not done. Okay, that's okay. I think AppWrite exception. The current user is not authorized, and then we can see the line number. Of course, this is the create document, and let's see if there is any way to overwrite create document dot then. So here I'll say, okay, this is data, and let's see console log data, and this is error. So we'll say, okay, this is console dot log error, and let's format this. So here we had called create user and then wait for the response, and this is the same thing which we are doing here. Let's see. And great. So we have the same error. The current user is not authorized to perform the requested action. And we actually just want to see where actually we pass this information. So we can say documents, headers, and okay, this is the API call which is being made for us. So we have databases. I think this is collection ID and then document ID, which is passed as the parameters here, payload, and this is the data. Awesome. So we have image description name, and then we have unauthorized error. So how to authorize? And let's see. So web, I don't think there's anything here. Retrieving documents, list documents, then we have to pass database ID, collection ID, then we can pass query. But how to do the authentication? Required all documents level permission, document level permission. Yes, this is what I wanted to see. So document level permission grant access to individual documents. Document permission are only applied if document security is enabled in the settings of your collection. Okay. So let's see where these permissions are, because I don't see anything. Or AppWrite provides permission to restrict access to documents when a user has appropriate type of access permission. I don't see where is this default values, server integration. But if I go back to documentation, where is this setting? Where is this setting? I don't see anything here. Person project, your account, overview, update project name, password, delete project, sessions. Okay, I have 3 sessions. I think hopefully they're mine. Activity, this is me, personal project. But where is this setting? Interesting. So I don't see this web. And is there any setting available here? Platform, API keys, create your API key to start it, get started. Platform. Interesting. So it says, I mean, I know this is something which exists in Supabase as well, and I could see the settings, but here I'm not sure where these settings are. So it says to provide access permission granted at either the document or the collection level. Yes. If the permission field is left empty, client SDKs cannot access the document. But where access permission granted? So if I go back to databases, usage, and I don't see anything permission related. Database settings, let's see here. No, there's nothing here. Usage, collection. Interesting. Hmm. Create your database. Okay, I did that. Create your collection. I did that. Permissions. Where is the permission? So AppWrite permissions mechanism offers a simple, flexible way to manage user teams. You can easily decide that user will have read update. Okay, I think I know where it may be. It's a little bit complicated. So I think I have to go to add, sorry, auth and auth methods, security, user sessions. No, not here. Teams or by user needs, security, session length, session limit, settings. Enable the authenticate method you wish to use. Okay, these are different ways, and these are auth providers. Where is this status unverified? Status unverified. Great. So I'm not able to find where the permissions are, and I think I'll end my stream today here, and probably I'll ask someone if they know how to set this permission. But this is how actually you can actually write your own service, like an Angular service, which we will use whenever you want to connect to the AppWrite client SDK. And I will remove this app key, of course, because otherwise you can also use it, which I don't want anyone to use it. You can create your own key and replace it for your own usage. So see you tomorrow, and probably I will have this answer, like how we can actually just bypass this authentication and directly query our databases by tomorrow. So see ya, and thank you for joining. So Shubham, Mr. Med, and yeah, see you next time.